You know, I said that I wanted to sort of summon the Vanderbilts and the Barrymores to this conversation. I think...
On my side, they're probably drinking somewhere, so I don't know that...
Oh, well, then they're probably in good company.
Okay.
I am from a long line of alcoholics.
Okay.
And hedonists and creatives and brilliant people that I love, and I feel their blood running through my veins. I feel a responsibility for it. But when I was a kid, you know, I grew up with a single mom in a very economically challenged environment. And I always felt a little shy about, I wanted to talk about what it was like to really grow up in a single mom, economically challenged way. And I felt like I didn't have the liberty because people just assumed that my life was different because of my last name.
Which is, it's so interesting because my mom was Gloria Vanderbilt, and I grew up very happy that my last name was not Vanderbilt. And because I think if you have a last name that is a big name like Barrymore, especially in the industry you were in, that you were put into as a child, you walk into a door and there's assumptions that are automatically made in your case. And you said, and I saw that very early on in my own life, because when I was a kid, people didn't know who my mom was. I was a Cooper and nobody cared, and people treated me normally. And then when they would find out who my mom was, there was always kind of a subtle shift, sometimes not so subtle, sometimes subtle. I worked as a waiter when I was like in high school. And I remember I worked at this restaurant that I was underage, so I got a job because my mom knew the guy who owned the place. And I used to eat lunch there with her. And when I was there as a waiter, I was serving people who I had eaten lunch with my mom, but they didn't recognize me when I was their waiter because they didn't even look at the waiter. And it was the greatest education to see, okay, when I'm sitting at the table with her, they see me in one way. They don't even see me when I'm not there with her, and they don't think they have to pay attention to me. And so to me, that was such a big, obvious wake up and clear sign that, for me, the idea very early on was implanted that no good could come from being associated with the Vanderbilts. The history of the Vanderbilts was very fraught for my mom. To me, they were like ghosts from a past I really didn't want to know about. And I chose to have my story be my dad's story, which is growing up poor on a farm in Mississippi. And I thought as a young kid, I looked at my mom's side of the family and my dad's side, and I thought, you know what? I'm going with the Mississippi side because I want that to be my American story more than the history of the Vanderbilts.
When you see your documentary, when you're here to talk about this book, the amount of chapters in your and your mother's and her family's life it's that of movies and novels. It doesn't seem real. There are just layers and layers and layers.
Yeah. It's like an American Crown on Netflix. I mean, it's just nuts how many characters there are, and dramas and people who are larger than life. And, it's this incredible story of this guy who, in the late 1800s, made the largest fortune the world had ever seen at the time.
More than, like, the Treasury.
Yeah, he had more money than the U.S. Treasury at the time. He had $1 out of every $20 in circulation belonged to him. And
when that is a family member, that's going to color the way people
he had a pathological interest in making money, and he made this fortune, and that infected the next generation, the subsequent generations, and I think it infected a lot of them in a negative way, in that they didn't really work, they didn't have to work, they just pursued their interests and pleasures and boats and stuff like that. And by the time I was a teenager, and that money was all gone, and I was very. My parents informed me very early on that there's not some pot of gold waiting for you. There's no trust. You're going to get your college paid for it, and then you'll make your own way. And I thought that was the way it should be. But I was very happy to know as a little kid I would have to make my own way. And I think it certainly, I don't think I would have been able to work as hard as I have if I didn't think that.
Do you remember, was there a spark? Was there something that happened in your life that was the catapult?
I think anytime, I think for anybody here watching who lost a parent early on or experienced loss early on, that for me was a huge turning point. My dad died when I was 10. My brother died by suicide when I was 21. He was 23. And that, seeing it changed the trajectory of my life, and it changed the way I viewed the world, and it changed what I was interested in and what I was concerned about. And like you, I wanted to work from a very young age to earn my own money and to prepare a future for myself. And which is why having a child for me has been such an incredible thing. It's something I never really dreamed I'd be able to do.
Did you question whether you'd be a parent ultimately?
I did, yeah. I mean, because my mom and I were very similar. My mom had this relentless drive she had had a lot of traumatic experiences as a child, and she developed this kind of relentless ability to push forward in spite of, my brother died in front of her. She experienced a lot of traumatic things as a child, being taken away by the courts from her own mother. And that drive is an amazing thing in terms of trying to achieve stuff, but it also doesn't make necessarily for stability or a stable kind of home life. And I was worried about what kind of a parent I would be. Would I be more like my dad? Would I be more like my mom? And, it took me a long time. That's why I had a child very late in life, because I thought I don't want to repeat the same, patterns that I grew up with.
It's a real privilege also. I found there's no wrong way to do it. If you do it early, you get to have more life on the other side. If you do it a little later in life, you have a lot more wisdom and patience, but it's just so win-win.
Yeah, I mean, I think I definitely, I did not want to have a child when I was still kind of trying to figure out myself, and now I feel like, I'm 54, like if I don't know myself now, it's a little,
And damn, you look good. God, have you ever not been hot? Anderson Cooper! Be sure to pick up a copy of Vanderbilt, The Rise and Fall of an American Dynasty, and I can't recommend more. One of my favorite documentaries I've ever seen in my life. Nothing left unsaid. Anderson Cooper, you literally are my nightly knight. It is such an honor to do this with you.
It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.